First thing I want to show you guys is the actual latency test, which is pretty nice. Which, by the way, this monitor is actually connected through the other monitor from HDMI out to HDMI in, and this is what you still get, still pretty fast. What's up, everybody? Thanks so much for being here. Today I'm actually very excited to introduce you guys this Osee monitors. This particular monitor is the G7 and they also make the T7. And a quick disclaimer, they sent me this out for me to test it out. I don't get paid to say anything here. This video is not sponsored by Osee, and all my words and opinions, they are my own. If you guys want to know all the technical specifications item by item, I'm actually going to be leaving a little chart here. You can actually pause the screen to look at the stuff. But primarily this is a 7-inch monitor, resolution from 1920 by 1200, 8-bit panel, has a brightness of 3000 nits, and also the contrast ratio is 1200:1 native. One thing that I love about this monitor is that it features a 160-degree viewing angle, which means when you actually record something, maybe your client wants to review and probably 2, 3, 4 people here try to see the monitor, you can actually view all the way from there. You see that? You can see everything, and not only from the sides, you can actually have the same thing by looking up or down. It will look like this still. You can actually even pass the 160, so even at a 180, I can still see what's going on, which is awesome. And it comes with this beautiful Pelican style case, and I also love this little grippy rubbery material in red. Very nice latches, and here's inside. And they also come with this awesome hood, very rubbery and anti-reflective materials, plus the elastic bands on the back here. So here's the actual monitor. I actually prefer a glossy finish because, in my opinion, it provides richer, bolder colors and also better black levels. And here's the back of the monitor. More details on that later. And here's just a quick guide. You can also download the full manual online. It also comes with the V-mount plate, which is awesome. The articulating arm. This whole thing is made of full aluminum. And you can also remove this. As you can see, there's a 1/4 thread right here. And here's the necessary hardware to mount the V-mount plate. It also comes with the D-tap and a locking thread so it doesn't come out. And this is the power supply with the same locking thread. I already installed the US version here. Also has the option for United Kingdom or Australia, I'm not sure. And also Brazil. I actually know this brand for at least 2 years. I was browsing some videos on YouTube and I watched at least a dozen of this video. Now, if you are serious about buying this monitor here, when I watch something, when I really want to buy something, I want to know every nitty-gritty detail, and this is the type of thing that I do here. Osee not only makes monitors like this here, they actually make full-size field monitors, and this is the G7. They also make the T7. The difference between the two is almost none. This one features SDI in the back and the other one does not. My company exists since the year 2005, and I do freelance for other production companies as well, and sometimes they require SDI, in which is important for me to have whatever monitor that I own to have SDI. The difference between HDMI and SDI, HDMI carries the video information plus the audio, and SDI is only video, which also is a more robust connection, so you don't risk breaking anything, because SDI, you pretty much can yank the cable out of there. Pretty much all you're going to break is the cable, but the HDMI is a little bit fragile. Every single on-camera monitor that I ever had and that I've ever seen, I don't know why they actually make the HDMI ports on the bottom, the DC input, everything. Why not on the back? So this is actually a very nice thing for me here, because all I got to do is plug the HDMI and SDI right here, just like a big monitor does. I think this monitor is going to be one of my favorite ones to use for many reasons, and there are so many features and so many good things about this monitor, but I'm also going to tell you guys the stuff that I don't like, of course. The 3 primary things that I demand in a monitor, first of all, is the color accuracy. Second is the ability to display black levels, and also the brightness. I use Rec 709 a lot, and this monitor is calibrated straight out of the box from the factory to Rec 709, and even if I'm shooting a C-Log, C-Log 3 or whatever, I don't even bother with LUTs, because I actually don't mind seeing the milky image, because I find that a lot of LUTs that you download, even the LUTs designed for the Canon R3 or any other camera, they always don't look right. I don't like the way they look. I'm going to start with the joystick first. Every single monitor that I see, I always have to climb right here, and the buttons are very difficult to see, especially if you are in the dark. This joystick here, you can actually just feel the thing go up, down, left and right, press it in. This is perfect. I don't even know why all the companies, they don't think of something like this here. Now, if there is an LCD display, especially if you have a higher end camera such as the Sony FX6 or the R3, the LCD displays on those cameras, they're very accurate. Every time I actually import the footage on the computer, which is also calibrated with the Spider X Pro and all the good stuff, right? The same exact color that I see on my monitor, the same exact color that I see on the LCD there. So I trust primarily the actual built-in LCD on the cameras. But I know on this monitor, even though the colors are amazing and the calibration is pretty nice, I still see that I'm slightly warmer than I should be, which, by the way, I'm going to show you guys later on system settings. There are some limitations here, which I believe firmware upgrade will take care of that. So when you try to color correct the monitor manually, there are some limitations. Now, regarding the construction of the monitor, this whole thing is made of polycarbonate plastic, but inside is a metal chassis, which means all the quarter 20 threads you see on the bottom and on the top, it's not going to break off because it's actually made of metal, and the threads are actually very deep. So this included arm that comes with this unit here, which is very nice. The actual threads, they're like, this long here, and it fits perfectly right here. So pretty much anything quarter 20 that you want to use this monitor, it's never going to be too shallow. It's going to be fitting perfectly right here. Another thing that I love about this monitor is the ability to power in several ways. For example, they actually come supplied with the DTAP/DC barrel, which is also threaded, which means it's not going to come out. And the usual Sony NPF battery, and also a V-mount battery if you want to. They actually come included with a plate. But the thing is, I actually have to stop right there because I was a little bit hesitant. And of course, here's the thing. How difficult can it be to mount a plate on the back of the monitor? It's a no-brainer, right? So it's not even in the manual, but it should be, because I'm going to tell you in a second. So here's the actual plate. There are 2 available holes on top and 1 on the bottom. And then when you come here, you only see 2 screws right there. And you're supposed to remove the bottom screw. That one I got it. So the zip lock that came with this product here, they provide a long screw, which is the bottom, that reaches enough depth to screw this right. And the other 2 go where? Because the thing is, what makes the manufacturer decide that it is cool to put 2 decorative pieces right here? Because you cannot tell if there is an actual thread here or not. Because the last thing that I want to do on a brand new monitor that I just unpacked is to use a utility blade to actually poke the sealant out of here. What if that wasn't the thing? I'm just saying, they should never block those holes. So they should leave it open. Why would they block it? Because I didn't want to damage the monitor, okay? So I guess you probably would think the same way. But again, go ahead and get your utility blade, make a little scratch on the back of the monitor, but you have to remove this in order to install this V-mount battery. And the primary way I'm going to be powering this monitor is with the V-mount battery, so I actually flick the power switch on and don't worry about time. But according to all the YouTube creators, they actually let us know that you can actually enjoy at least 3 hours with this monitor cranked up to the full 3000 nits of brightness. I'm yet about to find out. I have the NP970 battery, and the cool thing about this battery has a built-in little LCD. You pay a couple bucks extra, but it's always good to have. And here's the back of the monitor. Here's your power supply jack from 11 volts to 17 volts, and also 2 SDIs in and out and 2 HDMIs in and out. And just so you know, you cannot cross-convert HDMI with SDI, so whatever you have here, keep it over here, and HDMI, keep it as HDMI only. I also love the fact that they put an old school analog power on and off power switch right here, because what happens is when you actually switch it off, if you have a battery connected here, it's not going to drain the battery. A lot of monitors, they have the moment power switch or whatever it is, the press and hold kind of deal. It will eventually drain the battery slowly, but it will. And of course, here's your battery slot right there, which features a lock, which means the battery is not going anywhere. So you press this button, the battery is out. So if you want to go outdoors, I would actually crank it up to the whole 3000 nits. But for in-studio purposes, I actually have this thing set all the way down to 0, because I don't need anything brighter than 0 right here, because everything is dim and nice, right? So to give you guys an idea what 3000 nits are, this is the iPhone 13 Pro Max cranked up to 1000 nits. I can see everything outside on the sunniest day, and this is actually 3 times this brightness. The G7 was released around January 2021, and currently there's no speaker here. Maybe the older ones, they have a speaker, but they decided to remove the speaker for some reason. On the left side of the monitor, there's a SD card for firmware upgrade. If you have the G7, you have to email the manufacturer to send you the latest firmware. The newer monitors that they make, you can actually update without having them email you anything. And the SD card is also, if you want to install some LUTs on the card, this will actually take care of that too. On the right side of the monitor is your headphone jack and also an accessory such as a remote. I don't know what it looks like. I wish I had it here to show you guys. So they include this flex arm, which is pretty cool, especially if you're using this on a gimbal or a rig of some sort. But to mount the actual monitor on camera, I prefer to have this thing as low profile as possible, such as the other bottom part that comes with this unit here. So if you use this monitor With this here, you only have pretty much like a half an inch or 3/4 of an inch of height, because right now I'm actually looking straight at the monitor, not at the lens, and it looks like I'm looking right at you guys, right? So keep the monitor as low profile as possible, and then you can actually do the same thing I'm doing right here. Another one that's a small rig in the Godot cell. This is something awesome for your monitor, because not only you can actually tilt back and forth, you can actually do sideways 360 as well. So you can actually pan the monitor. There's no tightening to do. Another thing that would be super cool if they actually made those L brackets like the ones you find with the Godot series monitors or the Field World monitors, is a L bracket, which means there's no tightening to do. You just tilt the monitor without adjusting with those little ball mounts, because I found that to be a pain in the ass. Every time you move the monitor, you gotta untighten and tighten the thing. It's a huge pain in the ass. And these things also do not feature any sort of tightening. If they do come loose here occasionally, all you have to do is to have a hex tool right here, tighten a little bit, and there you go. So here's the whole flex arm. Another cool thing to do is to remove the bottom part. It exposes a 1/4 thread. And then you mount it right on a light stand this way. Or just mount the monitor straight down without any of this here. Now this hood is really nice, and this is one of the things that you actually pay a couple bucks for, because those Field World monitors is just like a little plasticky hood. This one here, the material is absolutely amazing. It's like a very rubberized type of feel. And it also has these elastic bands which easily attaches in the back of the monitor. Nothing plasticky to actually scratch the monitor. That's a plus to me as well. In most situations outside, you don't even need a hood, but here's the hood. I have a 28-inch field monitor that it is super bright. I don't know if it is 3000 nits, but I can see everything outside even without the hood. But as far as on-camera monitors go, I never had a 3000 nit on-camera monitor before, so this is actually awesome to have. Now let's talk about pricing, what you get out of this monitor. Before, it used to be on the upper $700. Now you can actually buy it for $499, which is technically $500 US, right? So I'm actually on B&H right now and look at some monitors. And of course, you have the small HD ones on a $1,600 price range, 7-inch, we get to that later. Let's see something else here. This TV Logic, which is probably a brand that most people are not familiar with. Let's see what you get for almost 2,000 bucks. And let's see what the specification says here. I believe it's 1800, something like that. Yes, 1800 nits, as you can see right here. And this is 3000 nits and 7 inches, 7 inches. And then they actually have some other specifications here, the bit depth, 10 bit, and HDR none, BNC, HDMI, a bunch of things here. They have SDI, still the same 1080p, 60 frames, SDI 1080p. I don't see 4K SDI either here on this $1,700-$1,900 monitor. Let's see what Small HD has. Small HD, 1,600 bucks, 7-inch monitor. Let's look at the specs right here. Actually, it used to be more, it's $1,800 for this monitor. 1,500 nits of brightness. I mean, you're welcome to look at all this stuff here, but I think for 500 bucks with all the bells and whistles that you get from most high-end monitors, even though this one sits exactly in the middle. So for my video, I'm gonna show you guys inside this monitor everything from system settings to all the capability of this monitor. This might be a little boring for people that are just browsing around, but if you're actually serious about buying this monitor, you probably will want to watch the whole thing, because if you bought the monitor, you just got it today, you're gonna be doing the same thing. You're gonna be going through all the features here. So why not watch, right? So I would appreciate if you guys didn't skip this part. So here's currently the things that I want. For example, on the top we have the zebra, the audio meter, focus assist, level, waveform, vector scope, aspect ratio, and also you can add a new tool. You can only add one more, so you can actually do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up to 8. So all you have to do is to press the joystick, and then you can choose anything here. I'm going to choose false color. And then with the arrow, you just click in here and then enable. And then you have the spectrum, which is the regular ones, and also for the Sony S-Log and the Canon CRI, Canon, and also the Panasonic and everything else, red. I'm gonna leave it set to default. And then to disable, you just press in the joystick and it's out. To re-enable, press it in, back in there. So every time you want to change settings, for example, the zebra, there's an arrow this way, so with the joystick, pull it that way so you can actually enable and then choose the level. To my particular experience here, 65 is the best. Then again, to enable, you press it in, enable, disable, enable, disable. When it's enabled, it's highlighted in green. Next, we have the audio meter, which is right here. You can actually remove by doing this, back on. Focus assist, you have this here, which is very nice and aggressive, which of course you can actually just change the settings. If this is too strong for you, you can actually set all the way to as gentle as number 1. I'm going to set it back to 5. And then you can also do black and white or not, especially if you're doing focus pulling. You probably want to see this in black and white for some reason. And again, when you press in the joystick, this goes out, and then you can actually disable just by doing this here. Press it in, press it in, press it in. Now, I've seen a couple people on YouTube actually criticizing them. Why would you put a spirit level on your monitor? It's very simple, because when you actually mount this monitor on your camera, you can actually orient how straight the camera is by just looking at the monitor, instead of you going to the menu and actually get a super annoying thing in the display, which the R3 has a spirit level built in. I would rather use it here, so you can actually set the sensitivity as well, very slow or very fast. I think that's a pretty good idea to actually have a spirit level right there, if you ask me. And you can also have the waveform. Again, you can actually enable or disable by pressing in the joystick. If you want further settings, just, scroll right. And then you have on and off. Luma looks like this, or the RGB, parade, back to Luma. Size small, middle, large, takes the whole screen right here. I like the small. And also the location. You can actually put it here, put it there, put it here, anywhere you want. And also you can actually set the opacity from 0 to, semi-transparent, very transparent. Now the joystick here is very intuitive, but sometimes I find myself wanting to scroll right when you're supposed to press in, because until you get the hang of it, it can get pretty confusing. I still do this here, but it's a minor thing. So right now we have the aspect ratio. You can actually engage or disengage just by pressing in the joystick. But for further settings, you just, scroll right with the arrow points. And then we actually have the option to turn it off, turn it on. And here we have 2.39.1, which is the super wide screen. And this is actually my favorite thing to film. And I'm going to be using this feature a lot regarding this particular aspect ratio. Then, of course, you have the 16:9 and all this here, including vertical videos, which is cool, 3:4, 4:5, custom, which you can actually use this, which you can actually go up and down. As you can see it changing right here. So vertical and horizontal. I'm going to go back to my 2.39.1. One thing that I don't like about this monitor, because the monitor on the back of the camera here, I have the full ability to choose, the opacity or set to maximum, which is going to be a solid black bar, because I can still see my stands here, my floor of the studio, the ceiling tiles. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but this one I don't like. Or you can also choose the line, which looks like this here. You have the line and everything. So let's recall it. So I prefer the matte, but look what happens. I can still see the top and bottom, so when actually filming in daylight, very bright backgrounds or whatever, it can be still confusing here. I don't want to see anything but a solid black bar, top and bottom. So it gives me the confidence to know that nothing that's not supposed to be on this aspect ratio is not going to be accidentally framed. So they have to change this on a firmware upgrade, because I really don't like to see the opacity right here. I want to see this entire top and bottom completely black. So here's the screen. On the joystick, when you actually scroll up, you actually have the ability to zoom in 2x and 4x. When you press the joystick in, that's when you actually have access to all the features that you chose. You can actually customize whatever you want, whatever you don't want right here, up to 8 functions. So when you actually press it in again, you actually cancel the zebra, for example, and then press it on again, you actually enable it. And to make this disappear, scroll left and it's gone. And besides the fact that you can actually choose what you want to put here, up to 8 functions, you can actually create scenes, which means you don't have to touch anything. So you do scene 1 zebra, the scene 2 focus peaking, the scene 3 histogram with everything else. So this monitor has all the bells and whistles the more expensive monitors have. Now to access the system menu, scroll left for 3 seconds or so. Then there it is. When I just unboxed this monitor, I couldn't see any image whatsoever. So if that happens to you, all you have to do is to make sure it is not set to SDI when you actually have HDMI plugged in, or vice versa. And then the next is the headphone volume control. There are no speakers on this monitor, at least on the current ones made in 2023. So you can press in, and then you actually have the access to the volume and changes that you want to do. So you scroll left or right. Now next is the backlight, which you actually access your whole 3000 nits, for example. So right now I have the setting set to 0, because for indoors in a dim lit situation like this here, if you actually have this whole thing cranked up, it's difficult to judge your black levels and also exposure as well. So I actually like to have this all the way down to 0, which by battery is going to give me an insane amount of time that I can actually use this monitor for, right? So most people going to use number 3, or I believe it comes factory default to number 5, which is about 1500 nits. And then to access the 3000 nits, all you have to do is to crank it up to number 10. But keep in mind that if you're actually shooting outside in the summer, 90-degree temperature, be very careful because it will damage this monitor. So it says here, if you feel the temperature is above 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit, you actually have to set the fan or the setting to this here. So if you accidentally set the wrong environmental temperature here, for example, 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which means if outside is like 90 degrees, this is going to be wrong. So be very careful with this. So let me back it down here for a second. Let's go back to the 35 degrees Celsius right here. And the speed is actually variable. So the lower the number, the less the fan will spin. And this is actually less aggressive than would be at the settings of 40 degrees Celsius, right? So at number 10, the fan is spinning. Number 9 is slightly less. Number 8, number 7, there's no fan. So let's crank it up to the 40 degrees Celsius. And at number 7, now the fan is spinning a little bit. Then 8, 9, and 10. Now the 10 is going to be the loudest fan, but why would the fan matter when we're actually using 3000 nits? It would be definitely outdoors, right? It doesn't make sense you have 3000 nits of brightness in an environment like this. So outside they have birds singing, car noise, traffic, people screaming, so the fan doesn't matter. It's not a light, it's a display, right? And I believe the factory default is set to number 5, which is 1500 nits, and I like to use this all the way down to 0. Again, because this particular lighting setup here, number 0 is best for me. You can do whatever you like, I'm just letting you know, maybe a suggestion or a tip. And when you are at low settings, you don't have to actually worry about the temperature because nothing's going to happen to the monitor unless you actually crank this up to 5, 6, or 8, or 10, right? Then to get out of here, press in the joystick. Next will be the display rotate. You can actually set it to automatic. So when you actually tilt the monitor all the way upside down, this will flip for you automatically, so you don't have to go through any menu settings, which is a pain in the ass. Or you can also choose to rotate this way or manually or image rotate or this way here. And next will be the anamorphic. We have this setting, 1.33, 1.5 and such. Next will be the DSLR scale in case we have older cameras such as the 5D Mark II, because the whole display is like display all weird, so you can actually do with the 7D and all. I choose none because I have the R3. On the status display, you can actually set it to off or on, battery only, which displays the actual voltage instead of those three little bar meters that nobody can trust, right? You should know the voltage that your battery that you're using actually shuts down. If you don't know, make a note of it. And not only that, you can also display the actual resolution right here by scrolling right. There it is right there. And next is the calibration LUT. For example, you have the color temperature, native or user, D56, D65, D93, back to native. I'll go back to this in a second. Then you have your gamma, only 2 available options, 2.4, 2.2. 2.4 is going to give you deeper blacks, 2.2 is going to give you less blacks. Calibration unit on, if you turn it off, all this stuff here will not apply. And then you have your brightness level, saturation, and then the reason why this is grayed out is because you're not on custom right here. And then input levels video, it looks like this. When you actually set to full, you actually see a greater gamma settings, more like in a washed out black. Sometimes it is desirable, sometimes it isn't, according to your preference. I'm gonna go back to video. And next is enter calibration channel. I'm not gonna mess with this here because that's gonna be requiring the monitor to be rebooted and all that stuff. You can actually take a look at the manual later. Now let's go back to the color temperature, set to user. And then this is when you start to see the RGB gain available, but the thing is, this should be in the middle because this is actually maxed out to the 512. There's no 513. What happens is if you want a little bit more green, you can't because all you gotta gain here is magenta only. So this I don't like. As you can see here, I think I'm a little bit too warm. I mean, it looks beautiful, but I know this is not the right warmth right here. So I wish I could change that because my monitor here, I can see accurately what I'm looking at until they let me go to the actual settings and change what I want. Firmware upgrade, you need to have the SD card ready and something smaller than 16 gigabytes. Even if you have the old school, like 2 gigabytes, that's even more recommended. And then to get off this menu, simply scroll right and you're done. So that should conclude my menu and system settings demonstrations. I hope this was helpful to you. This monitor used to cost about $700+ in the past. Right now you can actually buy it for $499, and assuming you don't need a recording feature out of a monitor, for what it is, what it does, and what it costs, I think it is a great buy. So that's the end of my review. I hope you found the contents helpful. If you want to subscribe to this channel, please do so. That means the world to me for us YouTube creators. And if you have any other questions, please drop them down in the comment section. I'll respond to everything that I see there. So once again, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.